All right, good morning, SketchUppers. Welcome to the keychain project. Remember, you had a choice between the phone holder or the keychain. This video is for the keychain project. The first thing we want to do to make sure we're working in the right measurements is to open a new file in the feet and inches format. We do want to make sure we're following along and have the correct dimensions. Otherwise, we will run into issues when we print. If your keychain, even though it looks small on SketchUp, if it is 6 feet wide by 2 feet wide, it's not going to fit on our printer. So you do want to make sure that you're following along with the measurements, making those match. If you run into issues, make sure you're asking for help so we can get that straightened out. So the first thing we want to do is, once you're in SketchUp, we're going to open a new file. So we're going to click on the folder and we're going to go new, and we're going to select the simple template feet and inches. So that means everything that we do is going to be in feet and inches. So it's going to open back up. It's going to look the exact same. Just know that we're in the right measurement system. So first thing we're going to do, since Google SketchUp, right now this person is drawn to scale, and the keychain we're going to draw is going to be small compared to this person. So we're going to zoom in towards the foot. Because if you can imagine you had a keychain, it would be about the size of this right here. So this will give us a good idea of what we're drawing to make sure we're in the right scale. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to draw a rectangle. So we're going to grab the rectangle tool from the left side. It is the top option. All right, I had a little mess up here. I'm going to get rid of this rectangle here. We're going to try this again. With the rectangle tool, I'm going to grab the top option. For some reason, it was giving me a hard time about typing in my dimensions. I'm going to try this one more time here just to see if this will work for us. So what we want is we want a keychain that is 1 inch wide by 2.5 inches long. So I'm going to just try to type in, since we're in feet and inches, I'm just going to type in 1, comma, 2.5. So that means 1 inch, comma, 2.5 inches. And click enter. That seemed to work better. So again, you can see in the lower right hand corner here where the dimensions are. So now if I rotate around, it looks like a rectangle that is 1.5 by 2.5 inch, or 1 inch by 2.5 inches. To double check, I'm going to grab my tape measure tool just because I'm curious. Length 1 inch, we saw in the lower right hand corner. Length 1 inch, height 2.5 inches. So we're good. That's what we want. Like I said, guys, sometimes this SketchUp does throw a wrench at us. Don't panic. If you need help, please raise your hand. I'll come around and get you. Hopefully it works smoother for you. Sometimes the issues are hit and miss. It is not a perfect program, but it is good for what we want to do. So once we have our rectangle drawn, we don't really need this person anymore because we can see how big that keychain is relative to her. So I am going to grab my cursor tool, click on her to highlight her blue, hit delete or backspace on your Chromebooks, and he gone. Okay, so now we have our rectangle that we will be working with. Okay, now we have to do a few things to set this up as far as what we want to do, because we want to give it a finished shape. Your keychain is not going to be a straight rectangle, so we want to give it that tag shape. So the first thing we want to do is grab our line tool, which is the pencil. Now the nice thing about SketchUp is it gives you these quick snaps. So right here, this light blue point is my midpoint. It'll automatically show that. That means that is exactly in the middle of this rectangle. So I'm going to start my line at one midpoint, go my way across, and I'm going to repeat that process. So now I have another midpoint. I actually have a midpoint on both sides. We are going to draw a line down both of those. So what we have done is we have broken that rectangle up into 4 equal parts. So the next thing we want to do is, for our next guideline, we want to go start in the bottom corner, and I'm going to go up 1/4 of an inch. So again, you can type in 0.25. You can look in the lower right hand corner. That's at 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to click once there. So now I'm going to draw my line straight across. So we have a line that is 1/4 inch away from the edge. So now the next thing we want to do, these are all our guidelines, is we want to draw diagonal lines from here, this point, to this point. We're going to click once, there, and we're going to repeat the process on this side. Okay, so now we have a lot of our guidelines set up. The last thing we need to do before we start adding any depth to it is we need to locate where we want the hole for your keychain. To do that, we're going to grab our circle tool, which is up back underneath, under the drawing shapes. We have our square, our rectangle, we want the circle. We are going to click on this midpoint right here. I'm going to click once, and now as we drag our radius out, the diameter of that hole will be 1/4 of an inch, which means our radius will be 1/8. So a radius is half of the diameter. Again, in the lower right hand corner, you can see my radius is 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to click. Okay, now we have all of our guidelines done. Now it's time to start cleaning this up. There's a lot of lines. So we're going to click on our eraser, and we want to get rid of everything except our tag shape. So now I'm going to click on the outside corners. So now we have the general shape of our tag. These guidelines are no longer useful. We can get rid of them. And then the last thing we want to get rid of is the lines inside the circle and the circle itself, because that's going to be an empty spot. So for that one, the eraser won't work. We'll have to grab our cursor, highlight the circle, and you can hit your backspace, and it's gone. Okay, so now you should have a tag shape. We're going to grab your push-pull tool, and now we're going to give it the depth of 1/8 of an inch. So on the lower right hand corner, you'll see that it's 1/8 of an inch tall. I'm going to click once. So at this point, you should have a tag that looks like this. Okay, 1/8 of an inch with the hole in the middle towards the one end. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to personalize this. You can add whatever text you'd like on there. Just please make sure it's school appropriate. Of course, remember, I am going to watch these prints, so I will see what you write. Underneath your drawing tool, where our squares and our circles are, there is a 3D text option on the bottom. In this window, in this box here, this is where you're going to enter your text. So this is what you want it to say. Be careful about getting too wordy. You got to remember, this is a 1 inch by 2 inch working area. So you can't put a lot of information in there, because the smaller your words are, the harder they're going to be to read. So do, limit it to maybe a sentence, a logo, something along those lines. But you do get to personalize this. So for example, if I do Elkhorn antlers, that's what I want it to say. Now, as far as font, you don't have a ton of choices, but you got 4 different ones to choose from. So I'm going to do permanent marker. It doesn't show up on here. It'll show up when we put the words on the keychain. Now, the height of the words, this is how tall the words are from like the bottom of the A to the top of the A. So the height of the letter this way. So we're going to start with 1/4 of an inch for the letter height. We can always adjust it once it's on the keychain. Now, text extrusion is how far it comes up off of the keychain. We're going to start that with just 0.1. So it'll be 1/10 of an inch. I'm going to click OK. Now the first thing we want to do is, I know it's sideways, we can fix that, but I want to make sure I click it so it says on face. That means it's actually on the face of the keychain, so it's connected. So on face, it's connected. Now we're going to use the move tool, rotate tool, along with a scale tool if necessary to make sure it fits. First thing I want to do is get it aligned right, so I'm going to grab the rotate tool. That is underneath the move options, so it's right here with the arrows. When we do this, I want to make sure my protractor here is highlighted blue. That means we're on the blue plane, so it's going to spin flat. So I'm going to just click once, and and a little line comes out of the top. That's basically a handlebar. So I'm going to click once again, and now I'm going to use that as a lever to spin my wording around. Now I had to spin 90 degrees, so it'll snap at 90. It'll light up green, 180. So at 90-degree increments, it'll give you a quick snap. I just need to go 90, so right there. Now that I have it rotated the right way, I can click on my move, and I can move it onto my tag. So now if I rotate around, it says Elkhorn Antlers there. If you need to mess with the size of it, underneath the move tool is also the scale tool. If I click on that, now I'm able to mess with different handles to make sure it looks appropriate. Okay, so that's the scale, the move, and the rotate tools. Again, if you have questions on those, it can be kind of wonky sometimes. So if you have issues, please raise your hand. I'll come help you. Otherwise, maybe check with a neighbor that's had a chance to move theirs. They could probably help you also. That's if you want to use letters. Another thing you can do when you personalize this, when you get rid of my letters, is you can also just add shapes. If you wanted to do different shape options, whatever it might be, you can do that. So feel free to personalize the space, be creative. I am going to set a limit to you though, that your keychain can only be 1/2 of an inch tall, which means we started it at 1/8 of an inch. So you can't have more than 3/8 of a protrusion coming out. So you are going to be somewhat limited to that, just as a heads up, because we are limited on the filament we can use. But the keychain, personalize it how you'd wish. Your next step then will be to share it with me. Please watch the next video. Thanks.